My name is Rachel Peter. I hope you will learn from my sad story. Please, as you watch to the end, may God bless you. And please, I pray to inspire you all to always watch over your children in school to avoid the mistake my mother did. Please, I personally invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please, let hit 2,000 subscribers. Thanks for subscribing and God bless you abundantly. It all started when my Mama Julie, as everyone knows her, called me and asked me to choose the secondary school I will like to be enrolled in after concluding my primary school education. I will love to be enrolled in a Rise and Shine college, I told my mom. A Rise and Shine college was one of the best secondary schools in the area. I learnt the students there do have a lot of fun and best education as well. This made me love the school. When my dad, Mr. Badmus Peter, came back from work that day, my mom related our discussions to him. My dad was a banker, a very diligent one, such that we barely sees him in the house in a week. Works takes most of him time, and despite all that, he was a good father. If that's what you want, then create time and take her there this coming Monday, my dad said to my mom while still focusing on his phone. Common Daddy Paul, you know I will be resuming back to work that Monday after my long leave, and I wouldn't want to be late as well. She paused as she adjusted her sitting position. You know what, darling? I will ask Paul to take her there and send us the feedback later, my mom concluded. Paul was my elder brother. We are just two in the hands of our parents. Dad agreed to Mom's suggestion, even though he wasn't so much in the conversation. Monday soon arrived, and Brother Paul followed me to see the principal of Rise and Shine College as instructed by our parents. When we got there, he put a call through to my mom, who spoke with Mr. Oak, the principal of the school, for more than 30 minutes. Riser, what's your name? The principal asked me. I am Rachel, sir, I replied in sharply. Oh, Rachel, such a nice name. I spoke with your mom and everything has been agreed on. She insisted you join the class today. Today? But she didn't tell me that, I replied the principal. In between, my brother's phone rang. He went outside to pick the call, leaving me with the principal, and came back minutes later. Rachie, Mom called, and I already told her everything is set, and I will be on my way to my jam tutorial now, Brother Paul said. I told you not to be calling me Rachie. I will report you to Mom, I replied him childishly. Whatever. They watched a little while longer and entered the office goodbye and left the office. I was in the principal's office for more than 30 minutes, waiting patiently for him to lead me to my class. Rachel, how old are you? The principal asked. I'm 14 years old, sir, I replied him obediently. Wow, you don't look 14. He stood up from his seat and moved closer to me. You are actually a beautiful girl. Anyone who sees you will think you are 25 or thereabouts, he said, putting up an irritating smile. I became nervous and I was getting uncomfortable. Can you take me to my class, sir? I said. Sure, but what I am saying is that whenever you need anything, don't forget to come to me, okay? I became uncomfortable with the principal's actions as he touches my cheeks. The class, sir? I mustered to him. Oh yes, the class. Turning at the same spot for some seconds like he was carried away. Now follow me, he said as he led the way. Me? He took me to my new class as he introduced me to the teacher. Mr. Boson was the class teacher for JSS 1, a tall, handsome man. I learned he was retained after completing his NICE program. Rachel, be a good girl, okay? And don't forget to see me in my office before going home today, the principal said. I nodded as I walked to the seat provided for me. Few minutes later, Mr. Boson, the class teacher, introduced me as a new student to the rest of my classmates. It was exciting to be there. I saw a lot of beautiful and handsome faces. In no time, I made friends with Grace and Margaret. During the break time, my new friends took me on a tour around the school. It was a big school, such that the junior secondary was separated from the senior with a gate, all in the same location. I was happy to be in a rise and shine college not until after closing time. I was on my way home when the principal called me. I wanted to avoid him seeing me, but there was no way to do such because his office was close to the school exit gate. I had no option than to go see him in his office. "Your mom called. She begged me to drop you off at your street since it's not far from mine," he said, wearing a wicked smile. "But I am not a baby, sir. I can go home by myself." "Moreso, starting from next week, I will be boarding the school bus," I said to him. "The school bus? That's not in your mom's plan. She doesn't want you to use the school bus," he replied me. "But why?" I queried. "You are not supposed to ask me that. You ask your parents when you get home," he said, pointing at a seat in front of him. I sat down, watching him doing some stuffs on the system in front of him. I was there with him for some hours. I looked at the wall clock in the office. It was 6 p.m. in the evening. This time the whole school was silent. I slipped off on the couch closer to the chair. While asleep, I noticed something creeping down my thigh. Not until I opened my eyes, it was the principal on top of me. I tried to shout, but he covered my mouth and also shushed me. "It's better you remain calm because everyone is gone," he said. Rachel sat frozen on the couch, her heart racing with fear. After what felt like an eternity, the principal finally zipped up his trousers and stepped back. His face bore no remorse as he stared at her, his voice low and menacing. "Don't you dare tell anyone about this," he said, pointing a finger at her. "If you do, I'll make your life miserable. Now stop crying and clean yourself up." Rachel could barely hold herself together. She was trembling as she wiped her tears with the back of her hand, too afraid to respond. "Let's go. I'll drop you off," he said, ushering her toward the door. The car ride home was silent. Rachel stared blankly out of the window, her mind replaying the horrifying moments over and over again. She felt trapped, unsure of what to do or who to turn to. As they arrived at her house, her mom rushed out of the front door, her face lighting up as she saw Rachel. "Rachel, I was about to come pick you up from school," her mom said, pulling her into a hug. The principal forced a smile. "Don't worry, Ma. I made sure she got home safely. Rachel, see you tomorrow. Make sure you come early, and don't be late." Her mom laughed. "Thank you, sir. Have a good evening." The principal nodded, waved, and drove off. Rachel stood frozen in place, her mother's cheerful energy a sharp contrast to the storm of emotion swirling within her. She wanted to tell her mum everything, but just as she opened her mouth, her mum's phone rang. "It's your uncle calling from the UK," her mum said, handing Rachel the phone. "Hello, Uncle," Rachel said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Rachel, my favorite niece," her uncle exclaimed. "How's Lagos? How are you coping with the present situation? I hear Tinubu is not making things easy." Rachel managed a weak laugh. "It's okay, Uncle." Her uncle's tone shifted. "Your voice doesn't sound like your usual self. You sound like you've been crying. What's wrong?" "Nothing, Uncle. It's just my new school. I haven't really made friends yet," she lied, her voice faltering slightly. Her uncle's voice softened. "Oh, that's normal, my dear. You'll make friends in no time. Just be yourself and focus on your studies, okay?" "Okay, Uncle," Rachel replied, trying to sound reassured. After the call ended, Rachel handed the phone back to her mum, who gave her a curious look. "Are you sure you're okay, Rachel? You don't seem as happy as before," her mum said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "It's nothing, Mum. I just have a headache," Rachel replied, forcing a weak smile. The next morning, her mum dropped her off at school. Rachel stepped out of the car with a heavy heart, her mum watching her closely. "If anything is wrong, you can always talk to me, okay?" her mum said. Rachel nodded but said nothing as she walked into the school gates. In class, she sat alone, her thoughts spiraling back to the previous day. A girl approached her, smiling warmly. "Hi, Rachel. Do you want to hang out during break?" Rachel barely glanced at her. "Oh, thanks," she muttered, her tone dismissive. The girl looked hurt but walked away. Soon after, their teacher, Uncle Femi, entered the classroom. He was a cheerful man with a knack for engaging his students. "Good morning, class," he said, writing on the board. "Today, we'll be discussing the effects of having sex at a young age." Rachel's heart sank. Her mind immediately went back to the principal and the horrors of the previous evening. She clenched her fists under the desk, trying to suppress the tears threatening to spill. Uncle Femi began asking questions. "Can anyone tell me some of the consequences of engaging in sexual activities as a teenager?" He scanned the room, and his eyes landed on Rachel. "Rachel, what do you think?" "Not much," Rachel said. "The activities were unpleasant, and the result was more often considered failure, just as irregular mood swings are considered failure." "Rachel, what do you think?" She stood up, her mouth dry, but no words came out. The same girl who had tried to talk to her earlier raised her hand. "Pregnancy," she said confidently. Uncle Femi nodded. "Very good. Pregnancy is one of the risks, but there are others. Emotional trauma, health risks, and even problems with education." Roxal remained standing, her silence drawing the attention of her classmates. "All right, Roxal, you can sit down. But after class, I'd like to have a word with you," Uncle Femi said gently. Rachel sat down, her head low, dreading what was to come. The classroom emptied as the students spilled outside for their break, laughter and chatter filling the air. Rachel stayed behind, her heart weighed down by the secrets she carried. With hesitation, she made her way to the staff office. She pushed the door open quietly and found Uncle Femi seated at his desk, engrossed in marking books. He glanced up and smiled warmly. "Rachel, come in, have a seat," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. She sat down, fidgeting with the hem of her uniform. "I noticed you were feeling down during my class," he began, his tone gentle but concerned. "You're not yourself. Is something bothering you?" Rachel hesitated, unsure of what to say. "It's nothing, sir. I just have a headache," she lied, her voice barely above a whisper. Uncle Femi studied her for a moment before nodding. "All right, if you say so. But Rachel, remember this. You can talk to me any time. If you need anything or just someone to listen, I'm here." She forced a small smile and nodded. "Thank you, sir." As she left the office, she felt a twinge of guilt. He was trying to help, but the fear of exposing the truth kept her silent. Later, Rachel spotted Sarah sitting alone under a tree. Sarah was the girl who had been trying to befriend her, but each time Rachel had turned her down. This time, she decided to give it a chance. "Hi," Rachel said softly as she approached. Sarah's face lit up. "Hey, Rachel, you actually came to talk to me?" Rachel managed a small smile. "Yeah, I thought maybe we could talk." Sarah patted the spot beside her. "Of course. Sit down. So, tell me about yourself. What's your favorite hobby?" "Singing," Rachel replied, her voice warming slightly. Sarah's eyes widened. "No way, that's my favorite hobby too. Wow, we have so much in common already." Rachel chuckled for the first time in what felt like days. The moment felt light, almost normal, but then Sarah's tone turned more serious. "Rachel, why are you always so sad and distant? Is everything okay?" Rachel froze, the question catching her off guard. Her walls shot back up. "Sorry, Sarah, I can't talk about it," she said quickly, standing up. "Excuse me." Sarah watched her leave, her brows furrowed with concern. Something was definitely wrong. The closing bell rang and students began leaving the school premises. Ratchet walked toward the gate, her steps slow and reluctant. Just as she was about to leave, Principal Oak appeared in her path. Her heart skipped a beat as fear gripped her. He smiled devilishly, his voice low. "You know no one can save you," he whispered, his eyes scanning her in a way that made her skin crawl. "You look beautiful today," he added, his hand reaching out to touch her cheek. Tears welled up in Rachel's eyes as she stepped back. "Sir, please don't do this. I'm too young for this," she pleaded, her voice trembling. Her words fell on deaf ears as the principal grabbed her arm and began pulling her toward his office. Panic surged through her. Unbeknownst to them, Sarah had stayed behind, sensing something was wrong. She quietly followed, peeking into the hallway just as the principal dragged Rachel into his office. Summoning her courage, Sarah burst through the door. "Stop it!" she yelled, her voice shaking with both fear and anger. The principal froze, his face pale with shock. Rachel broke free, and without a second thought, the two girls bolted out of the office. "Get back here!" the principal roared, chasing after them. He shouted orders to the gateman. "Don't let them out!" But the girls were faster. They slipped through the gates before they could be stopped, running as far away from the school as their legs could carry them. After what felt like an eternity, they finally stopped, gasping for breath. Sarah turned to Rachel, her face a mix of anger and concern. "So this is what's been making you sad, but why didn't you tell me?" Rachel froze, her eyes filling with fresh tears. "Tell you?" she said bitterly. "Even if I told you, would you have believed me? That's the question. I tried telling my mum, but I couldn't. Even Uncle Femi asked me what was wrong, and I still couldn't say it." She broke down, her body trembling with sobs. Sarah hugged her tightly. "I'm so sorry, Rachel. I had no idea," Sarah said, tears streaming down her own face. "But we have to do something. We can't let him get away with this." "I can't," Rachel whispered. "He'll ruin me. And my dad, he's not even back from his trip." Sarah held her shoulders firmly. "You're not alone in this anymore. We'll figure it out together." Just as they began walking, a black car screeched to a halt in front of them. 4 masked men stepped out, blocking their path. One of them sneered. "Do you think you can escape our boss?" Rachel and Sarah froze, terror gripping them as the men advanced. The cold warehouse smelled of damp concrete and rust. Rachel and Sarah sat on the floor, their hands and feet tightly bound with ropes. Tears streamed down their faces as they shivered with fear, the gravity of the situation sinking in. Sarah whispered shakily, "Oh God, please don't let my mum go to bed tonight wondering where I am. Please save us." One of the masked men overheard her and smirked. "You both look scared. Good. Now, tell me, do you know your parents' numbers?" Rachel and Sarah nodded hesitantly, their voices trembling. "Good. We'll be calling them soon," he said menacingly. Back at home, Rachel's mother, Mrs. Julie Badmus, sat on the living room couch, her eyes darting to the clock every few minutes. Worry gnawed at her as she wondered why Rachel wasn't home yet. She muttered to herself, "It's getting so late. Where could she be?" Her thoughts were interrupted by the ringing of her phone. She grabbed it quickly, noticing an unknown number. "Hello, who is this?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. "Mrs. Julie Badmus?" The voice on the other end said. "Yes, this is she," she replied. "Your daughter is with us," the man said coldly. "Don't panic, but if you want to see her again, you must pay $10,000. Mrs. Badmus gasped. "Ah, please, sir, have mercy on me. Where will I find such an amount of money?" "I don't care," the man said flatly. "You have 48 hours. Don't make us regret being patient." The line went dead, leaving Mrs. Badmus trembling in shock. The following morning, Mrs. Badmus was still sobbing when a knock came at the door. She opened it to find her husband and their son Paul standing there. "Julie, what's wrong?" her husband, Papa Paul, asked as he stepped inside. "Why are you crying, Mama? And where's Rachel?" Paul asked, his face full of concern. Through her tears, Mrs. Badmus explained the terrifying call and the ransom demand. By the time she finished, Papa Paul's face was pale with shock. "Wait, you mean Rachel hasn't been home since yesterday?" he exclaimed, his voice cracking. "My daughter," he cried. "She is calling me to rescue her? Don't try to play smart." Bull stepped forward, clenching his fists. "We need to inform the police immediately," he said firmly. At the police station they filed a complaint, and officers began working on the case. But just as they finished giving their statement, the phone rang again. "Don't try to play smart," the man growled. "We're watching you. You have 6 hours left." The call ended abruptly, leaving everyone in the room tense. Back at the house there was another knock at the door. This time it was Mr. O'Kay, the principal. He stepped inside with a smug grin. "You think you can escape me?" he sneered. "Depression. You're too small to ruin my reputation. Or my school. Both of you will pay for what you did." His laughter echoed as he turned to leave, but the determined looks on Rachel and Sarah's faces showed they wouldn't let him get away with his threats. 2 hours later, the police tracked the kidnapper's location to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. A team of heavily armed officers stormed the building, taking the kidnappers by surprise. After a brief struggle, the men were arrested, and Rachel and Sarah were rescued unharmed. As the officers were cuffing the kidnappers, one of them added, "We also have evidence linking the principal to this operation." Within hours, Mr. Oak was arrested, his smugness replaced with panic as he realized his crimes had caught up to him. The next morning, Rachel sat with her parents and brother, recounting everything she had endured. "So you mean that man touched you?" Papa Paul shouted, his face red with rage. Paul clenched his fists. "That monster deserves to rot in jail," he said angrily. At the court hearing, the judge sentenced Mr. Oak to 5 years in prison for child abuse and an additional sentence for his involvement in the kidnapping. The kidnappers also received lengthy sentences. Justice was served, and Rachel and Sarah were finally free to move forward with their lives. In the weeks that followed, Rachel and Sarah became inseparable. Their bond grew stronger, and they supported each other through the healing process. They transferred to a new school together, where they thrived in a safe and supportive environment. Rachel even joined the school's choir, finding solace in her love for singing, with Sarah cheering her on every step of the way. Though their journey had been painful, they emerged stronger and closer than ever, ready to face the future with hope. And so, they lived happily ever after. What is the moral lesson of the story? We have thousands, let me pick few educative morals. 1. Always have a listening ear when your child is trying to complain to you, and have a strong bond with your children. 2. Always check their facial expressions anytime they return from school. 3. Check the type of friends they keep, whether good or bad. Lastly, be the one to come and pick them from school. Don't let a third party drop them and pick them. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.